fly, fish, food.
Welcome to our YouTube channel. I'm Cheech,
I'm Lance.
and we're with Fly Fish Food. First and foremost, Curtis yelled at us because we need to tell you to subscribe to our channel right now. So just go ahead and subscribe. Where is it? Somewhere down here? Just go ahead and subscribe. That would be great. Okay? Just do it. All right, we're going to talk about how to get into fly fishing. We are in our most wonderful shop, and we've been thinking about this one. So what's the first thing you think, Lance?
Gotta have a rod.
Got to have a
Gotta
rod.
have a fly rod.
A fly pole or a rod?
Either one. Most
Yeah.
people like to call it a fly rod, but technically it's either one, right?
All right, perfect.
Fly rod, fly pole, we don't care. As long as you catch fish with it, you're in.
So this is a fancy white stick here. What's the deal here?
This is a fly rod case,
Okay.
and inside we would normally find a fly rod.
It's on the wall over there.
But in this case, it's empty because it's our display. So a fly rod comes in many weights, many lengths. Depending on the part of the world that you are in or part of the country that you're in, you might need a different length or weight, but the most common all-around fly rod is what?
A 9-foot 5-weight. So if you get a 9-foot 5-weight, chances are if you're chasing trout, you're going to be able to do it effectively until you can kind of dial in what your preferences are. But that's a really good starting weight. Also, you see this is a short tube. This is a 9-foot rod in here. Most rods nowadays are 4-piece. So if your grandpappy says you got to get a 2-piece rod because the 4 pieces just don't cast right.
Your grandpappy.
Yeah. Didn't your grandpa say that?
No, my grandpa didn't teach me to fly fish.
Same here. So that's just made up. But buy a 4-piece rod. They're great. All right. So after you pick out the rod that you want, and rods can vary between, I don't know, $90 and $1,000. So pick something that fits in your budget and just run with it. Maybe go cast them first too. But
Next up.
You need a reel. We picked a very fancy Lamson Guru to show you because it's an excellent reel. But this is basically going to hold your fly line. It's really not a ton to talk about with reels,
No,
right?
reels vary in price based on what they're made from. So least expensive fly reels generally are composite or plastic. Next step up, generally speaking, would be stamped metal, followed by cast aluminum, and then high-end reels are basically all machined aluminum. This one, for instance, is machined aluminum. So this spool was CNC machined down from basically a hockey puck, if you will, of aluminum. Most reels have an adjustable drag. Usually there's a knob on the back that will tighten or loosen the drag. Your direction of retrieve should stay the same tension, but it has an adjustable tension as line comes off the reel. Most reels are also reversible for both right-handed casters and left-handed casters. So this one is currently set up for a right-hand cast, left-hand retrieve. Most people that are right-handed, no right or wrong, but most people that are right-handed tend to cast with the right hand, reel with the left. There are those that cast right, switch hands, and reel right. Most people that are left-handed cast left and reel right, so they make the drag systems interchangeable for either direction. You just have to usually change the guts out a little bit. Each reel is a little bit unique there, but take it to your local fly shop or bring it into ours. We can get you squared away there. And then you also have to wind the line and backing on a different direction for each retrieve.
The other thing is with a reel, when you're fishing for trout, you're not going to reel in your line every single fish. And we'll do another video on that, on how to fight and land a fish, but a lot of times your reel is only a line holder. So you can get as fancy with this or as simple as you want. So anyway, so you'll need a reel. Next, you can see that the reel has quite a bit of room here. You're going to want to put fly line and backing on this reel. So one of the common things that we see is someone's just getting into it, they pick out their rod and reel and they've budgeted for that, but you should also budget for a fly line. Typically, fly lines range from about $40 to $130. Is that what they are right now?
Yeah, $30, $40 on up to about $130.
Yeah, so it's not like you're just going to spool up a bunch of line and you know, it's going to cost you $3 or $4. Be prepared for that. And the better the line you get that matches your rod, the better you're going to feel casting. It's going to last longer, and
Yep.
Yeah.
Make the whole experience better. So first you have the reel, next you have backing. Backing is kind of your insurance policy. So backing you can buy in small spools of maybe 50 to 100 yards, or if you come to the fly shop, we have giant spools of it that we can load onto your reel. Either way, it's more or less your insurance policy. The fly lines are usually about 90 feet long, so most reels are designed to take the line plus a fair bit of backing. In most cases, 100 yards, give or take, is very common underneath the fly line on a reel. So you'll want backing on there for a couple reasons. One, if you make a 50-foot cast and a large fish takes your fly and it peels 40 feet away the other direction, you're out of line, you break that fish off. With backing, it connects to your fly line. It's usually 20 or 30 pound breaking strength, so you gain kind of the extra yardage to fight a large fish. More importantly, because that doesn't happen very often, especially not trout fishing. Saltwater fishing, that'd be really important. Trout fishing and most freshwater fishing, it's more important to just fill your spool up. So the line doesn't take up enough space on most reels to actually feel the reel. So if you put backing on first, that takes up some of the space on the spool. Then you put the fly line on top of it. Now you've maximized the arbor size of your reel, so it stores your line in larger coils and it retrieves a little faster, so it has less memory and it takes up line a little quicker. It's pretty standard stuff. It's much less expensive than fly line. You know, we sell a 100-yard spool like that for about $6.99, and we sell it for about 5 cents per yard. Currently, that's probably subject to change in the future, but you know, if you're watching this 20 years from now, that price will be outdated. But backing on a large spool is usually going to be less expensive, and then we can put the exact amount you need to help maximize your spool's potential.
And that brings up another point. If you can, go to a fly shop for them to set up your fly line and backing the first time. It's a real pain trying to get this spooled onto your reel at home, and it goes all over, and then your cat walks across the room and gets tangled up in it. And now you have a cat that's pulling backing out. Not recommended. Okay, so we talked about rod, reel, line backing. The price of those can add up a little bit. So there's kind of a cool thing that a lot of the companies offer. We'll show you this one by Echo. But this is a kit, a 9-foot 5-weight kit. It comes with a rod, a reel, the fly line, the backing, and also leader. So this is basically set up for you to take out and start fishing with. Typically the cost on this combo saves you a little bit of money. Some of them have really basic reels, some of them have nice reels, but this is a good way to go if you just want to go and grab something to try out fly fishing. Kits run anywhere from $150 on up, depending on the quality of rod and reel you get.
Perfect. So leaders in fly fishing are tapered, a little different than conventional gear. A conventional leader would just be straight line, straight one diameter, if you will. The leader in a fly fishing setup is generally speaking tapered from thick to thin. They vary in diameters, but they are going to be tapered. That is to transmit energy and provide some reliable and predictable turnover of the fly. So the fly line itself has a taper to it, and that taper extends into the leader. It dissipates energy and makes for a nice clean cast. So you can get them again in various diameters, various lengths. There are even some that are different materials, fluorocarbon and nylon. Leaders are a subject in and of themselves, but if you just get a pretty basic, like this one will say Umpqua trout leader, in the back here it says trout 3-pack, that's a pretty standard, just 5x diameter, that's a really popular size. If you're fishing streamers or large flies, let's say, you might need to go up a few diameters, you might need thicker, which is a little counterintuitive in that 4x and 3x are actually thicker than 5, 6x would be thinner than 5x.
One thing with this too is these leaders come with a loop on the back of them, and most fly lines nowadays have a loop, so you just do a loop-to-loop connection. It's really easy. Most of us in the shop still prefer a nail knot, but this is becoming the standard. Also, when you pull one of these out of the package, put it over your fingers like this and start undoing the big side first.
The heavy end.
The heavy end first. Maybe we'll do a video on just that.
We should just do it right now, because
Yeah.
we're going to talk about the breakdown of the leader and the tippet as well. So like Cheech was saying, you stick the leader on your fingers, you take the heavy end, in this case the looped end, and you unravel it. It's wrapped around itself from the heavy end. And once you get it unwrapped, now it will just funnel off in your fingers and not create a giant disaster. If you start from the thin end, it makes a big knotted mess. So you can see that this goes, hopefully you're just even in the camera, you can see how thick that end is, the thicker butt section versus this really thin, maybe you can see them better
This
that
is
way.
Cheech thickness, this is Lance thickness.
Maybe so. And then like Cheech was saying, you can run your hands through them. You can warm the material up a little bit and give it a little bit of a stretch, and then it will lay nice and straight, versus where I haven't done that yet. Still has the coil. When you take them out of the package or you take them off your reel each time, you need to release that memory, and you just do that by warming them up a little bit and giving them a little bit of a stretch. Then you can see the leader tapers like we mentioned a second ago. Most leaders are about 60% butt section, maybe 20% taper, and 20% tippet. So the tippet is the thin part of the leader, so when you buy a package, this one said 5X again, that's referring to the thin end of the leader is 5X. So this is about 5-pound test on the thin end. Once you've lost some of this, every time you tie a fly on, you're going to be eating this stuff up. Every time you break off in the trees, like I don't ever do that, but Cheech has been known to do that a time or two.
Watch the videos, you'll see.
Yeah, you'll see. So, no, we all do that, of course, but you're going to lose some of the tippet. You're going to get it to where it starts getting really close to your thick material. Then it's time to either put a new leader on, or more common is to add tippet. Tippet is all one diameter, so this is a 5X spool of tippet. So if I take maybe 2 or 3 feet of 5X, clip that off of there and tie a blood knot or a surgeon's knot on here, I can rebuild the thin end of my leader. And I can do that several times until I start connecting really thick leader butt to really thin tippet, and then the knots don't link up very well and you lose some of the consistent turnover. Then it's just time for a new leader altogether. But tippet is really handy. We also use tippet between flies because we fish 2 to sometimes 3 flies at a time.
Yeah, tippet's one of those things that you'll probably go through quite a bit, and it's a good idea to get, for example, if you're trout fishing, maybe 3X through 5X to start out with. That's usually a pretty decent range. Okay, so we've talked about rod, reel, all the line and the tippet and the leader, but the most important part that's actually going to catch the fish is the fly. Now, we're not going to go over a whole bunch of different fly patterns here because it's so situational. Depending on where you live in the country, what species you're chasing, and a lot of different things. So we're going to leave that up to you so that you can find some local flies that work in the fisheries that you fish. However, we do need to talk about some of the useful tools that you can use to be able to present those flies effectively. Lance's favorite.
My favorite.
What are these?
I'm not sure. What are they?
Split shot, aka sinkers.
Sinkers.
Okay, so they're basically different sizes of split shot. A lot of people, when they first start fly fishing, think that fly fishing is all done on the surface with dry flies. It would be awesome if it were, but it's not. A big percentage of the fish eat nymphs. A nymph is a fly that's under the surface. And so there are leader rigs that need split shot in order to get them down to where the fish are feeding. So if we get the flies down, we also use bobbers, right?
Strike indicators.
Strike indicators. Whatever you want to call them, like rod, pole. And these are useful for nymphing. Nymphing is a technique where you're fishing flies under the surface that we just talked about. And this is your indicator on the surface that tells you when a fish has eaten your pheasant tail nymph or whatever, right?
Whatever you've got down there, yep.
There are lots of different types of indicators.
Different sizes, shapes, colors, different attachment varieties. There's all kinds of stuff there. No right or wrong. Find one that works for you. I'd maybe get the smallest you can and still suspend the amount of weight that you need. Outside of that, find the one that works. Go to your local fly shop, see what they recommend.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, mess around with nymph techniques and rigs. Do some searches on nymph fishing, and that will probably help you to get more fish right off the bat, at least here in Utah. What'd you say?
Everywhere on planet Earth that I've been, trout doing more than 90% of their feeding below the surface, you're going to catch more fish on nymphs.
Let's talk about fly storage. Once you have a whole bunch of flies, you don't want them just rattling around in the bottom of your bag. This is my favorite style of fly box. And it's got an O-ring that snaps so that it's waterproof, and it has slotted foam. You stick your flies in the slot and it keeps your fly nice and snug. They don't rattle around and they don't wear out. I've got some of these going on 15 years.
Yeah, that particular one's cool because it has this page with a whole other side, so that holds a lot of flies in a very small package.
Yeah, these are a little bit spendy, the CNF style, but this is like buying 3 fly boxes. But at the end of the day, get a fly box that's designed for flies. It'll help you keep their stay organized on the river a little better.
Next up, we want to talk about some storage options for on the river or on the lake. This is called a chest pack. It's one of our favorites. This particular one comes with a couple different bags, a little backpack or a mesh pack, depending on how much stuff you want to take with you. You know, pretty simple opening, little zipper open and closure, a foam drying patch. Really simple. You wear it over the shoulder. It'll hold fly boxes, hold leader and tippet.
Wait, I want a vest instead.
You can have a vest as well. Vests work great too. They're old school, but they still hold all the gear you need. Old school is great. On the vest, and there's so many vests or packs that we're not going to show you. We don't have time to show you all the options there. Find one that suits you. There's sling bags, there's chest packs, there's hip packs, there's the vest. If you're a classic old fart like Cheech here, he doesn't wear a vest. Don't let him kid you. On the back of your vest or pack, you usually want to have a net so that it's really efficient to land the fish. Rubberized or all rubber bags are best for the fish and also easiest to remove your hooks. These fancy nets from Fish Bond are very, very popular. They're pretty light as well. You'll want to attach them somehow to the back of your pack, most commonly with a retractor or a magnetic release. And then some other pieces of gear that go on the front of the vest are
Nippers. Don't use your teeth, because then your wife will yell at you. Okay? You don't have a wife, use your teeth.
Your dentist will still yell at you.
Your dentist will.
If you don't have a dentist, you should probably get one.
Somebody will yell at you. Use nippers. They're awesome. They're cheap. If you lose them, you can buy a new pair. They range anywhere from $4 to $90. It's a different story. We're not going to talk about it here.
Nippers.
Forceps. Is that what they're called?
Yep.
Yeah, forceps with a comfy grip. No, these are pretty basic. What I like to look for in a forceps is one that doesn't have teeth on the jaw. The reason I don't like teeth on the jaw of my forceps is because if you grab a fly with it, you're most likely going to ruin that fly. What's a good way that people can get a fly out without using forceps?
Use a barbless fly, or use your forceps or hemostats, as Cheech was mentioning, without teeth to pinch the barb flat so that the fly pops out easily with just your fingers. Or use a catch and release tool. There's lots of different things you can do there. They're also handy to pinch split shot on your leader and tippet too.
The other cool thing about these is you can find them that have little scissors built in as well. So there are lots of different options there. It's a good tool to have. And then if you run on a dreaded hatch and you have to throw dry flies, that fly, just because it has a little bit of foam or hackle or elk hair, isn't going to float forever, especially after you catch one fish. So it's important to have floatants. This is one of the classic floatants, Luna Quell. There are lots and lots of different styles of floatants for different styles of flies. And
Yeah,
what do you think?
we could do we probably will do a whole video on how to dry your fly. But a quell is just, a quell, gink, something like that, or a couple of the long-term, long-running favorites in floatants. Floatant is a paste material, so you'd flip the cap, squeeze out about a raindrop size of liquid, if you will. It's kind of more of a paste, I suppose, on your fingers. Work it into the fly, put it all over the dry fly or any parts of the fly they want to float. You could also put it on your leader to help some parts of your leader float. Very, very handy to have. Really just a core item you should have in every vest or pack.
Okay, so once you have all that, you're ready to hit the river. Now we're going to talk about waders and boots. How often do you wear waders, Lance?
Maybe 100 days a year.
100 days a year. Lance is on a different level though. Like for me, when I get to fish the 4 times a year that I get to fish,
Yeah, right.
it's a good idea to have a good quality pair of waders. Now neoprenes are out. Don't get neoprene waders for your overall trout usage. You can layer up underneath them. In fact, we'll show you a pair of waders. Breathable waders. This is the Orvis Ultralight. I've been wearing these for a while. They're great. They're super light. They're packable. They're durable. They keep me dry. The end, right?
The end.
Yes. Waders can vary from I don't know, $150 to $1,000.
Yeah, most good waders will have a neoprene or Hypalon foot, which then needs to go inside a boot. So this is what's keeping the water out. The wading boot in fly fishing is designed to get water inside and out. That's a common question we get asked when somebody's buying waders for the first time, or they have some hunting waders that maybe have boots attached. Those will work for fly fishing, but they're not ideal because they don't offer a lot of ankle support. They don't usually have the kind of grip that we're looking for. Most wading boots have either specifically designed rubber soles, so this is a Michelin sole boot, some are Vibram, or they'll have a felt sole. Either one is designed to be wet and still offer quite a bit of grip.
And another thing about these wading boots is, as you can see, and maybe you can't see it very well, but it's all synthetic upper. So if you take just your normal good hiking boots out and you fish in those, you're going to ruin them, because these boots are designed to get wet, dry out, get wet, dry out. And so it's important to get a boot that's designed for wading. The other option is to wet wade. In the summertime, when it's really hot outside, just get some technical pants or fast drying pants, and you can wear your wading boots. You can wear just a pair of sandals, which I wouldn't recommend because you'll ding your feet up. But a pair of wading boots can be worn with either a pair of thick wool socks or some neoprene socks. That's my favorite wet wading get up, is the neoprene socks, the wading boot, and it'll keep you comfortable all day.
And by wet wading, he means without waders. So you're just wearing, like you mentioned, just pants or shorts and the boots, no wader involved. That's a really comfortable way to do it when it's hot outside.
Okay, so we've talked about all the stuff you need to do or get to start fly fishing. It can be as simple or as complicated as you want it to be. Two other things that I would recommend once you're to this point. Number one, practice casting. We have a video on that, how to cast a fly rod. And number two, practice tying knots. You're going to tangle up, that's part of the game. The faster you are at tying knots, the more efficient you are, the more you're going to want to go out and not get frustrated.
Practice, practice, practice.
Practice, practice, practice.
After that, doctor's orders are to fish as often as you can. 4 times a year won't cut it. Got to go more.
I got to talk to my doctor.